The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport of the small human exploration ship. Captain Elias Ward had traveled through uncharted systems before, but the coordinates that led him here were strange. They were not from a human source. They were hidden in a broken signal his computer picked up months earlier, a message filled with fragments of an alien language and a plea for help. He had debated whether to come at all. Space was dangerous and human explorers were still a new presence in the galaxy, but Elias had always been a man who followed his instincts. Something about the faint message tugged at him, as if he were meant to answer it, and so he followed. The planet that came into view was scarred and broken. Its surface was dark with long cracks of ash and glowing rivers of molten stone. From orbit, it looked as if fire had consumed half the world. His scanners confirmed what his eyes already guessed. This world had been the site of a terrible war. Elias lowered his ship through the thin atmosphere, steadying it against violent winds. The scanners showed no clear signs of life, but one small energy source pulsed faintly amid the ruins of a city. He decided to land. The ship's landing gear touched cracked stone and silence wrapped around him as he stepped outside. His boots crunched against the blackened ground, and the ruins of tall structures surrounded him. Buildings once grand now stood as skeletons of twisted metal and shattered glass. He walked carefully, his rifle slung across his back but not raised. Something about the silence felt heavy, as if the world itself mourned. Then he heard it, faint, weak, but real. A voice. Elias froze. It was not human. The sound was soft, melodic even, though broken with pain. He followed it through the rubble until he reached a collapsed structure. There, half buried under stone and glowing debris, was a figure. She was unlike any being he had seen. Her skin shimmered faintly with colors that shifted like oil on water. Her features were sharp yet graceful, her eyes large and luminous, glowing with pale light. She wore armor that was cracked and burned, and her body shook with effort as she tried to rise. And in her arms, wrapped in torn silver cloth, she cradled something small. The woman looked up at him, her eyes locking on his. For a long moment, neither moved. Elias felt his heart pound, unsure whether this was friend or foe. But then, to his shock, she spoke in broken standard, the trade language humans had learned from their first alien allies. All. I ask? Her voice cracked. She tightened her hold around the small bundle. Hold, let my child. Elias blinked. He had expected a plea for help, water, food, or safety. But she asked for something so strange, so simple. He crouched down, keeping his voice calm. You're hurt. I can move the stones, get you back to my ship. You need help. She shook her head slowly, her eyes filled with exhaustion and something deeper. Trust or desperation, he could not tell. She lifted the small bundle closer to him. The cloth shifted and Elias saw a tiny face. The infant's skin glowed faintly, its features delicate, smaller than a human newborn. Its breaths were shallow, its chest rising and falling with effort. Elias hesitated. He was an explorer, a soldier once, but never a father. The sight of such a fragile life in the middle of all this ruin shook him more than any battlefield had. The alien woman's voice trembled as she spoke again. Please, human. He needs you. Slowly, Elias extended his hands. The moment he touched the child, he felt warmth spread through him. The infant stirred, its weak cries soft but alive. It nestled against his chest as if recognizing the comfort of being held. The alien woman exhaled in relief, her body sagging against the rubble. Her luminous eyes softened. Yes, only you. Can? Elias looked at her sharply. What do you mean? Why me? But she did not answer. Her strength was fading fast. He placed the child carefully in one arm and used his free hand to move the stones pinning her down. Piece by piece he pulled her free, ignoring the heat of scorched metal against his gloves. When she was finally free, he saw how badly she was injured. Burns and deep cuts marked her body. Her armor had protected her, but not enough. Still, she looked only at the child now resting against Elias. You came, she whispered, almost to herself. The signal reached you. Elias frowned. You sent it? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Not me, but my people. We knew. If anyone would answer, it would be human. The words confused him. Humans were still considered newcomers by most alien civilizations, barely crawling out of their own solar system. Why would her people trust humans above all others? The woman coughed, her body trembling. Elias quickly adjusted the child in his arms and knelt beside her. Stay with me. I'll get you to my ship. My med systems can help. But she shook her head weakly. Too late. For me, not for him. She reached up, her hand brushing against the child's head, then rested briefly against Elias's arm. Promise. You will protect him. Elias's jaw tightened. He had never made promises lightly. I promise, he said firmly. Her eyes closed for a moment as if his words gave her peace. But then she forced them open again. He is the last, my people's hope. They will hunt you. They will fear him. But you must not let them take him. The weight of her words sank deep into Elias's chest. He looked at the child, so fragile, so innocent. The thought of entire empires hunting this infant felt impossible. Yet the fear in her eyes was real. Before he could ask more, the woman's breathing slowed. She whispered one last time, her voice barely audible. Only human hands can keep him safe. And then she went still. Silence filled the ruined city once more. Elias sat there, the child pressed against him, the alien mother's body lying motionless at his side. He felt the heat of the dying world around him, the distant rumble of shifting stone. He looked down at the child. The tiny alien opened its eyes for the first time and Elias froze. They glowed with the same pale light as the mother's, filled with something ancient yet innocent. The child let out a small sound, not quite a cry, not quite a word, and nestled closer against him. Elias took a deep breath. He had come here as an explorer, searching for answers. Instead, he had found a dying mother's trust and a child's life placed in his hands. He rose to his feet, holding the infant close. Around him, the ruins stood silent, but he felt the weight of unseen eyes, futures, enemies, perhaps even destiny, watching. He spoke softly, more to himself than to the child. All right, little one. I don't know why she chose me, but I'll keep you safe. That's a promise. With the child secure in his arms, Elias walked back through the ruins toward his ship. The journey ahead was unknown, but one thing was certain. His life, and perhaps the fate of many others, had just changed forever. The small exploration ship drifted above the shattered planet, the engines humming softly as it hovered in the thin atmosphere. Captain Elias Ward sat in the cockpit, the infant cradled gently in his arms. The child was no larger than a human newborn, but its presence was extraordinary. Its skin glowed faintly, casting pale streaks of light across the ship's interior. Every breath it took seemed fragile, as though the slightest disturbance could harm it. Elias studied the child carefully. Its fingers were thin and delicate, the nails tiny and translucent. Its eyes, already open, shimmered with a soft luminescence. The child's features were alien, yet unmistakably intelligent, as if its mind was aware even in this fragile state. He felt a deep sense of responsibility settle over him. This was no ordinary child. The alien woman's words from earlier echoed in his mind. Only human hands can keep him safe. Elias carefully unwrapped the bundle of silver cloth that had protected the child. He examined the infant, looking for signs of injury or illness. Everything seemed fine, but the child's small chest heaved unevenly. Its breathing was shallow, irregular, like it had been through something traumatic. Elias activated the ship's medical scanners. They beeped softly, scanning the child's vital signs. The data displayed a fragile but stable life. Nothing in human medicine matched exactly what he was seeing. Some of the child's organs were familiar, but others were entirely alien in structure. It was delicate, vulnerable, and completely dependent on him. He remembered the words the alien woman had spoken. He is the last, my people's hope. What did that mean? He didn't know, but he could feel the weight of the responsibility pressing down on him. Okay, little one, Elias whispered, rocking the child gently. We'll figure this out. One step at a time. The child stirred, making a small sound that was almost like a sigh. Elias smiled, a mixture of relief and worry crossing his face. Its tiny hands grasped his finger with surprising strength, as if recognizing the touch. He thought about the alien woman, lying dead back on the planet. She had trusted him, a human, with the most precious thing in the universe, her child. It was hard to believe someone would make such a choice, but he felt a strange sense of honor. He would not fail her. Elias studied the ship's scanners for possible threats. The planet below was hostile, scarred by war, but other life forms, or worse, could be tracking him. The child was small, weak, and completely defenseless. He had to protect it. He set the child in a specially designed containment cradle that could monitor temperature, vitals, and oxygen. The cradle adjusted automatically, wrapping the infant in a gentle field that simulated warmth and comfort. The child settled immediately, responding to the artificial care system, but Elias refused to leave its side. Not Ellie. Elias had hoped the quiet of deep space would last, but peace was a fragile illusion. The infant rested in the cradle, glowing faintly as the small human ship drifted among distant stars. Every sound of the engines and every subtle vibration of the ship reminded him that life, fragile, precious, and alien, was in his hands. The first sign of trouble appeared on the ship's scanners. Small energy signatures flickered in the distance, moving fast, precise. Elias squinted at the display. They were drones, automated, unfeeling, and relentless. Whoever had destroyed the child's homeworld was still hunting. Elias's jaw tightened. "All right," he muttered. "We can handle this." He adjusted the ship's controls, weaving through the asteroid belt nearby. Space debris clattered past the shields, sending small sparks across the viewport. The drones pursued, sleek and metallic, designed for speed and efficiency. But humans were unpredictable, and Elias intended to use that advantage. He activated the ship's defensive systems, but there were only a few weapons, meant for emergencies, not battles. Against the drones, firepower alone would not be enough. He needed strategy, cunning, and timing, the things humans excelled at. The first drone appeared close enough for its sensors to detect the child. Elias flinched as a targeting laser swept across the cockpit. He banked the ship sharply, dodging the beam. Sparks flew from a nearby asteroid that he had nudged into the drone's path. It exploded in a flash of fire and metal. The infant stirred, but the cradle's protective field absorbed the vibrations. Elias held his breath. "You're safe," he whispered. "I won't let them hurt you." More drones arrived, each one faster and smarter than the last. They moved like a swarm, coordinating attacks in ways humans could rarely predict. Yet Elias had something no machine could match: intuition. He anticipated their movements, using the asteroid field to create traps, drawing drones into collisions or interference fields. Through it all, the child glowed softly, almost as if responding to the danger around it. Elias couldn't understand why, but the sight strengthened his resolve. This infant, fragile as it was, deserved a chance at life. And humans, resourceful, clever, persistent, were going to give it that chance. Hours passed. The chase stretched across sectors of space, with Elias constantly adjusting his tactics. He improvised shields, rerouted power to engines, and even used his ship's cargo containers as distractions. The drones adapted, but humans adapted faster. Finally, after a tense maneuver, Elias sent a signal through the asteroids, a false distress message that drew several drones into a magnetic trap. They clashed, sparks flying, and then fell silent. Elias breathed heavily, scanning for the remaining threats. The child remained safe. Its glowing eyes met his, and he felt a strange reassurance. It was as if the child recognized him not just as protector, but as a partner in this struggle. Elias smiled faintly. "We make a good team, don't we?" Yet the sense of relief was temporary. The drones were only scouts. Elias knew the real enemy, the ones who had destroyed the child's homeworld, would come soon. He needed more than clever tricks and nimble maneuvers. He needed allies, resources, and a plan to keep the infant safe. He set a course for the nearest human trading outpost, a small but independent hub at the edge of mapped space. It was not perfect, but it offered temporary safety, medical supplies, and information. The journey was tense. Elias kept the child close, talking softly, humming lullabies. It was strange to sing to an alien infant, but the sound seemed to soothe the small being. Even amidst the danger, he felt a human connection that transcended species. Protection, care, and love. These were the tools humans wielded best. When the outpost appeared on the horizon, relief washed over him. The small station was bustling with ships, traders, and engineers, a hive of life and activity. Yet Elias kept his ship in the shadows, careful not to attract attention. He needed a quiet dock, away from prying eyes, to ensure the child's safety. A small landing platform at the station's edge seemed perfect. Elias guided the ship down, using every ounce of skill he had honed over years of exploration and survival. The engines hissed as the craft touched the platform, and he immediately powered down non-essential systems to avoid detection. As he stepped out, cradling the child, he noticed a group of humans nearby unloading cargo. Their eyes lingered on the glow of the infant. Elias instinctively covered it, aware that even humans might not understand what they were seeing. "Quiet," he murmured. "We don't want trouble." The outpost's medics were sympathetic but cautious. They examined the child, fascinated by its biology and uniqueness. Every system, heart rate, temperature, breathing, was monitored. Despite being alien, the child responded positively to the care, a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability. One of the medics, an older woman named Saren, leaned in. "Captain, I've never seen anything like this. How is it surviving?" Elias shook his head. "I don't know, but it's alive and it's counting on me. That's enough." The child stirred in his arms, reaching for him, and Elias felt a surge of determination. He would not let it down. The galaxy was dangerous, full of enemies who saw life as expendable. But humans fought, protected, and adapted. That was what made them special. That was why the alien woman had chosen him. As night fell over the outpost, Elias prepared for what would come next. Drones, enemies, and dangers beyond his imagination were still out there, waiting. But he had the child, and he had the determination to survive. He spent hours mapping potential escape routes, monitoring communications, and reinforcing the ship. Every decision he made was influenced by one thought: keep the child safe. Then, as he gazed out at the stars from the outpost's observation deck, he realized something profound. This child glowing softly in his arms was not just a survivor. It was a symbol. A fragile symbol, yes, but a symbol nonetheless. It represented hope, resilience, and the power of care. Humans had never been the strongest in the galaxy. Machines and advanced alien species often outmatched them, but humans were adaptable. Humans were unpredictable. And humans, as Elias now understood, could protect life when no one else would. The first real connection formed in that quiet moment between man and child. Elias felt the weight of responsibility settle fully on his shoulders. This wasn't just survival, it was guardianship, guidance, and courage. He whispered softly to the child, "We'll face them together. Whatever comes, I'll keep you safe. That's my promise. You're not alone anymore." The infant blinked, its glowing eyes locking with his. Elias could not read thoughts in its alien mind, but the connection was undeniable. The child trusted him as the mother had, and that trust was sacred. Outside, the outpost's lights flickered softly against the darkness of space. Elias held the child tightly, knowing that soon they would leave the safety of the station to continue their journey. Dangers waited beyond every star, but Elias had something the enemies did not: human ingenuity, human care, and human courage. He tightened his grip around the infant. "We're ready," he whispered. "Let's show them what humans can do." And for the first time, Elias felt hope, not just for the child, but for the future. The galaxy was vast, full of shadows, but humans could light the way. Elias had thought that the trading outpost would offer safety, a quiet place to care for the child and plan their next move. But space was unpredictable, and peace often lasted only as long as one could hide. The infant slept soundly in its cradle, glowing softly, unaware of the approaching danger. Elias had left his ship's shields active and defensive protocols ready, yet nothing could fully prepare him for what was about to happen. A warning beep pierced the calm. The ship's sensors detected multiple high-speed signatures approaching the outpost. Elias leaned over the display, squinting at the readouts. They weren't drones this time. They were live ships, sleek and menacing, their design unlike anything he had seen before. "They found us," he muttered. "And they're fast." He gathered supplies and prepared to move. The outpost's staff looked at him nervously. Some had heard rumors of the alien child he carried. Others were unsure what to make of the glowing infant. Elias ignored their questions. There was no time for explanations. The enemy ships entered orbit with frightening speed. Automated turrets at the outpost opened fire, but it was clear the attackers were skilled, anticipating defensive patterns with precision. Elias carried the child to the ship, wrapping it tightly in a protective cover that further stabilized its vitals. "Hang on," he whispered. "We're leaving now." The infant's eyes opened slightly, faint light pulsing with each blink. Elias felt the weight of responsibility more acutely than ever. The child depended entirely on him. Its mother had died trusting a human to protect it, and he would not fail. He engaged the engines, lifting off from the outpost just as the first enemy projectiles reached their position. Sparks flew past the cockpit and alarms blared, but Elias remained focused. He had faced drones before, but live ships with pilots added a level of danger that required careful strategy. Elias weaved through asteroid fields, using the natural debris as cover. The child's cradle absorbed every jolt and collision, its alien biology resilient yet fragile. He adjusted course repeatedly, predicting the enemy's maneuvers. They followed, relentless, their pursuit precise and determined. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines and the soft breathing of T. Elias had thought their narrow escape through the asteroid field would give them time to breathe. But space offered no such luxury. The enemy was patient, relentless, and calculating. They did not tire. They did not stop. And they would not give up until the child, fragile, glowing, and alive, was in their hands. The small human ship moved swiftly through the void, weaving through planets and asteroid belts with Elias at the helm. The child rested in the cradle, glowing softly, oblivious to the danger that surrounded them. Elias checked the systems constantly, adjusting shields, engines, and energy output. Every move he made was precise. Every decision mattered. "They're coming," Elias muttered, eyes scanning the sensors. A fleet of sleek black ships appeared in the distance, cutting through the darkness like predators. These were not automated drones. These were fully crewed vessels, fast and armed with devastating weapons. Elias knew that alone he could not win. The human ship was small and lightly armed, designed for exploration, not combat. But humans had something even the most advanced alien fleets often lacked: creativity, courage, and determination. He activated the ship's communication array, sending out a discreet signal to nearby human traders, miners, and independent captains. "Emergency," he said, "life at stake. Assistance required. Coordinates transmitted. Bring what you can." Within hours, a small fleet of human ships responded. They were not soldiers, not an army. They were ordinary people, traders, explorers, engineers who understood the stakes and were willing to act. Humans, Elias realized, thrived in situations where ingenuity and courage mattered more than sheer strength. The enemy ships closed in. Their weapons glinted in the faint starlight, ready to fire. Elias maneuvered through a dense asteroid field, using every rock, every shadow to hide his small fleet. He coordinated with the human allies, directing them to take positions, create diversions, and use every advantage the environment offered. The battle began. Human ingenuity shone brightly. Traders used their cargo containers as shields. Engineers activated experimental EMP bursts, and miners deployed magnetic nets to trap enemy vessels. The enemy had advanced technology, but humans had adaptability. They predicted, improvised, and turned disadvantages into advantages. Elias kept the child close, shielding the cradle while guiding the fleet. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We can do this together." The enemy fired relentlessly. Beams of energy cut through the darkness, striking asteroids and ricocheting unpredictably. One human ship was hit, spinning violently, but clever maneuvering by the others saved it from destruction. Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans might not be the strongest, but they refused to give up. Hours stretched into a tense, continuous battle. Elias coordinated attacks, used the environment, and relied on human creativity to counter the enemy's strength. The child remained safe, protected by the cradle and the combined effort of the fleet. Every successful maneuver reminded Elias of the alien woman's trust in humans, her belief that they could protect life against impossible odds. During a brief lull in the battle, Elias checked the child. Its glowing eyes were steady, unafraid. The sight gave him renewed determination. "We're not just surviving," he said quietly. "We're showing them what humans can do." The enemy, frustrated by the unpredictability of the human fleet, attempted a final coordinated strike. Elias quickly calculated trajectories, predicting the attack pattern. Using a combination of shields, evasive maneuvers, and clever use of nearby debris, the human fleet turned the strike back on the attackers. One by one, enemy ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Victory did not come without cost. Several human ships were damaged and some pilots sustained injuries. Elias felt the weight of loss, but also the undeniable pride in human resilience. Humans fought not just with weapons, but with mind and heart. protecting life that no one else valued as fiercely. As the enemy retreated into the darkness, Elias guided the small fleet and the child to a safer sector, away from the danger zone. The infant stirred in the cradle, its soft glow pulsing as if aware of the victory. Elias smiled, feeling the bond between them strengthen. For the first time in weeks, Elias allowed himself to reflect. The child represented more than survival. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and human ingenuity. The fleet had fought not just for themselves, but for life itself, proving that humans could stand against overwhelming odds. He spoke softly to the child, who reached tiny hands toward him. "You see," he said, "humans are strange. We are not the strongest, but we never stop. We protect, we care, and we fight for life. That's why your mother trusted us. That's why we're still here." The child cooed in response, and Elias felt a profound sense of purpose. He realized that the galaxy would challenge them again, but they would face it together. Humans thrived when the odds were against them, when creativity and courage mattered more than numbers or technology. The human fleet stayed nearby for several days, escorting Elias and the child to a hidden sector known for safety and secrecy. Here they could rest, repair the ship, and plan for the next stage of their journey. Every human involved understood the importance of the child's life. Each contributed in ways only humans could: thought, care, ingenuity, and courage. Elias looked at the child, glowing softly in its cradle. "We've made it this far," he said quietly, "and we'll keep going. No matter what comes next, I will protect you. That's my promise." The child's small hand touched his arm, and Elias felt an unspoken connection. The alien woman's faith in humanity had not been misplaced. Humans could rise to impossible challenges, protect fragile life, and adapt when others would fail. In that moment, Elias understood the true meaning of HFY. Humans were not defined by strength alone, but by their ability to protect, adapt, and fight for what mattered. The child represented the future, hope, and the best of human determination. As the small fleet dispersed, leaving Elias to continue with the child, he felt a quiet confidence. The galaxy was dangerous, filled with enemies who underestimated humans, but humans had ingenuity, courage, and the capacity to care. Those qualities made them formidable. Elias whispered once more to the child, "We're ready for whatever comes next. Together we can survive anything." And as the ship glided through the endless stars, carrying the fragile yet glowing life in his arms, Elias knew one thing clearly: humans could face the universe and rise, protecting what mattered most. Against any odds, the small human ship drifted through the quiet darkness of deep space, carrying the fragile alien child that had changed Elias Ward's life forever. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, but their beauty did little to ease the tension in Elias's mind. The enemies who had destroyed the child's home world were still out there, still hunting. Every star, every shadow in the distance could hide danger. Yet Elias felt a calm determination he had never known before. Humans thrived when the odds were against them, and he had proven it, not just through survival, but through protection, ingenuity, and courage. The child's mother had entrusted him with her last hope, and he would honor that trust. He checked the child nestled in the cradle, its small glowing eyes blinking softly. Despite the chaos, the infant seemed calm, as if aware of Elias's presence and care. He smiled faintly, feeling a connection that went beyond words. This was more than protection. It was guardianship, guidance, and hope. Days passed as they traveled through uncharted systems, avoiding known patrol routes and dangerous regions. Elias used every resource at his disposal: old star maps, hidden supply stations, and human ingenuity to navigate safely. Along the way, he encountered traders, explorers, and scientists, all offering help once they learned of the child's importance. Elias never fully explained why the child was so important, only that it represented life worth protecting. Yet the humans who aided him instinctively understood the stakes. Humans had a habit of rising to the occasion, protecting what others might abandon. One evening, as the ship passed near a glowing nebula, Elias reflected on the journey. He thought of the alien woman who had died trusting him, her hope placed entirely in human hands. Her last words echoed in his mind: "Only human hands can keep him safe." He realized she had been right. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but humans had something unique: Creativity, determination, and the ability to care for life no matter the odds. That had allowed him to protect the child, to outsmart enemies, and to survive where others might have failed. Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up a distant signal, a small fleet of ships moving cautiously but deliberately. Elias froze, heart pounding. Could it be enemies returning? He adjusted course, prepared defensive protocols, and monitored the ships carefully. To his surprise, the approaching fleet was human. Traders, engineers, and independent captains, people who had heard of his mission, had come to escort him to a secure location. It was an uncharted human settlement, hidden in a safe sector where the child could grow without fear. Elias allowed a small smile. Humans helped one another when it mattered most. That was part of their strength. The journey to the settlement was slow but safe. Elias kept the child close, singing softly to calm it during long jumps through hyperspace. Each time the infant's glowing eyes met his, Elias felt a surge of purpose. He had carried life through destruction, chaos, and danger. Now he was